So in today's video, I just wanted to talk a little bit about one of my favorite pieces of equipment I've ever bought, and also about whether it's still, relevant and a worthwhile purchase in 2024. And that piece of gear is, of course, the Line 6 HX Stomp. Like many of you, I spend a little bit more time than I would like on various gear forums and Reddit forums talking about gear, and one of the most common things that I see coming up in forums these days is talking about whether the Helix products are still worth it, seeing as they were kind of the first on the market, or one of the first to really kind of blow up in the space that is now so crowded, recently with the release of various products from Quad Cortex or the Fender Tone Master and all of these different things. I've been fortunate to play a bunch of these different modelers, and while they're all honestly wonderful and they all have their pros and cons, I've kind of stuck with this my last kind of 3 or 4 years, my HX Stomp, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the pros, the cons, what I use it for, and in my experience comparing it against things like the Axe-Fx, the Quad Cortex, and the Fender Tone Master. So the biggest thing that I love about the HX Stomp, and I've talked about this in my other video on it, is I love its form factor, and that is honestly probably still the biggest reason that I'm still using this guy, is that I love the fact that I can just throw this and its power supply in my gig bag. It's there for any recording session, it's there for any live show I've done over the last 4 years. It's really kind of changed my my gear life, this tiny little box, in that there's a ton of power packed into such a small package. The other benefit of this is that it sounds incredible. All of the modelers kind of have their different pros and cons, but I've actually really enjoyed, again, there was definitely a learning curve with modelers. As someone who's only ever played through an amp before purchasing this, there's always going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but I actually really find that the Helix, moving like things like the IRs, and I know that people really like to upload their own IRs and purchase IRs to use with the Helix, and that's of course a wonderful thing, but I personally don't, and I've always found that actually messing with the miking situation in this wonderful little box has actually been a super easy and wonderful experience. It's all fairly intuitive. And the other big plus about all of that, in that people sometimes worry about, maybe it's outdated, or maybe it's kind of not the way to go, given that now there's, even compared to 5-10 years ago, there's like triple the options for you in terms of modeling and what you might want to do. But the one thing that Line 6 has, there's a huge dedicated team that's regularly rolling out updates, and the HX Stomp, despite being one of the elder kind of models in the modeling game, still gets these updates, and I still get to try them out and see what's happening. So there is a very big Helix community, and there's a really big development team that's kind of tuned into what's going on in the community, which I think is a big plus of this HX Stomp. Now, some of the things that I don't like about the HX Stomp, or would change if I could, is first of all the DSP limit to it is quite substantial, given that it is in such a tiny form factor. I don't know of anything that is in the same ballpark other than maybe the Hotone Ampero Mini, but that is a 2-foot switch button, and again, it doesn't have quite the intelligent routing and all of that this has, and again, you sacrifice more control switches and all of that. So this, in terms of being a fully fledged 100% professional modeler, I think this has the advantage in that it's the smallest thing. So of course, being in a small form factor, they couldn't fit as much DSP as you would find in one of the Helix LTs, or the Helix Floor, or the Helix Rack, or some of the Axe-Fx units, or of course the Quad Cortex. I know the Quad Cortex's big thing for a while was that it had 2 times the DSP. But now, wow, it can be frustrating to not have, just because I'm a little bit of a gear caveman and I like to have everything available in one spot. That said, with the DSP limitations on this, I have never not been able to figure out a solution to kind of balance it, and typically that looks like me having multiple presets for different things that I need. So again, I don't use a ton of effects in my personal career, but when I play with other people's music, sometimes you need to bring out other things. And so I have probably 10 presets that I go through that have everything. And again, very, very rarely do you need everything that would be on your board in the course of one song. So with a little bit of, intelligent planning, that DSP limitation I've actually always found to be fixable. The next kind of con that I've actually recently kind of bypassed a little bit is that with this, of course, you only get 3 foot switches. And again, kind of similar to what I said about the last one, that can be mitigated by, again, using multiple presets. And then there's also some effects, like I joke that I have an instant neo soul setting in one of my band's patches, where if I kick it on, it puts on a significantly wetter reverb and a little bit of vibrato on it. So again, you can route 2 things to one switch and mitigate it that way. But also very, very recently, I'm just trying to see where I put it now. I purchased this little $30 external foot switch with TRS cable. This is the Ampero mini switch from Hotone, and this has enabled me to now have 5 foot switches at my disposal. And it was a little bit confusing at first, setting it up so that my the global settings on the Helix recognized it for what I wanted it to do, but again, that's now given me 5 foot switches, and now the possibilities are a lot more endless for me myself. And so that, again, it only has 3 foot switches. You can add 2, or if you're really trying to only bring this, I've always been able to figure out a way to make that work for me. And then lastly, my only other complaint about this versus some of the other modelers, which again is just a sacrifice because it's in such a small unit, is that sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to navigate. I personally am not a fan of hooking this up to my computer. I don't know why, but I don't like doing my edits on there. I like editing as if it's an actual pedal, which is personally a me problem, but going through this and navigating the settings sometimes can be a little bit frustrating in that you have this tiny little screen, and they've maximized the functionality of all of these buttons, don't get me wrong, but you have to do a bunch of menu diving and complex kind of page shifts and everything to get around it. But so navigating it around and doing everything that you need to do can be a bit of a headache in this smaller form factor. But again, the biggest reason I'm still using this at the end of the day is that it is so small, portable, and convenient. And again, it really has replaced, like I use this is my pedal board, this is my amp and cab when I'm playing gigs out, this is what I record all of my stuff through when I'm doing those solo guitar videos for YouTube. So this really is kind of my most vital piece of gear. And again, the small form factor and everything comes with its caveats, but I would say that this is 100% still worth buying in 2024. I have never once felt like it was impossible to do what I was trying to do. I love the convenience of not having a big board or having to drop $400 on effects pedals because I'm looking to try something out. And that is actually, again, the other thing that I would say about this is there have been times where I've been thinking about buying a pedal to kind of augment this because I thought it was unique. And so far, I've actually never been able to find something that I wasn't able to recreate to at least, I would say, 90%. Because obviously unique pedals made by unique pedal makers are going to do certain things that, the HX software can't. But I've never not been able, to not get within, 10% of what that would have been and achieve the effect, which at the end of the day, for me as a working musician, is the most important thing, is getting something that does the job. It doesn't have to do it exactly in the unique characteristic way that another product does, but it lets me try things out and get there, and then if I have to augment something, I will. But again, I've never been able to not recreate what I was going after with this wonderful little box. So there's my little love letter to the HX Stomp. If you guys use the HX Stomp or any of the Helix products and you are still loving and enjoying them despite all the new shiny boxes that are available in this day and age, let me know. I'd love to hear from you and what you use yours for. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. If you want to take a guitar lesson with me, there's a link to contact me down in the description. I'd love to work with you on whatever's troubling you on the guitar. And last but not least, down in that description as well, there's links to my Patreon if you want to support me in the channel. There's links to purchase my video course or my books. And I got new videos coming out every Monday and every Thursday at least, so I hope to see you in the next one. And until I do, I wish you a wonderful day, and I hope you have some fun playing the guitar.